SFJ 4x4 Studios presents.
Is that not in my music now?
In my oversized
We're on air.
four-wheel drive
Look
Jeep.
at us. We're talking. People hear us.
A Jeep podcast starring industry experts.
Pure monosity.
What? Say that again.
With mad scientist Scott Brown.
Use my drill press as a sword of blade.
Our host, Neil Simpson.
If one light goes out, they all go out.
Filled with shenanigans.
We are really professional with Jeeps.
This is I Speak Jeep.
Good morning, afternoon, evening, wherever, however you are joining us. This is the I Speak Jeep podcast presented by SFJ4x4.com. My name is Neil with Simpson Family Jeeps, joined in Grandma's Couch Studio, full production crew at this point.
By the producer that's drinking water.
Yeah,
Well, he had a doctor's appointment today, so he's got to get his
gotta
fluids
hydrate.
back up.
that's right.
And apparently I walked in, there was no sound, but there was sound 5 minutes ago. So we now have yet found another technical difficulty that may need to be addressed in the future. Think it timed out?
I don't think it affected anybody else. I think it was just our headphones.
Oh.
Yeah.
You think they heard the vamping sound the whole time?
Yeah.
Oh.
Because you could hear it on the TV out front.
Oh, is that what Scott was saying?
Mhm.
Oh. Well, look at that. We learn something new every day.
I'm tired of that. Anyway,
We either continue to learn
Wait
or
for the weekend updates, and I got to tell you what I learned.
Oh boy, we either continue to learn or you become stagnant and you fade away. So I'd like to continue to learn.
okay,
and just take it in
I'll
stride.
continue to learn after a brief break.
I'd like to catch my breath.
Yes.
Is what you're saying. And yes, the mad scientist would like a brief break. Is what he's
Yes.
saying. So Scott Brown, Doc Scott Brown, and I am wearing my patriotic tuxedo T-shirt for those of you who are listening in your ear holes elsewhere, which is the vast majority of you. However, if you would like to join us, you too can join us almost every Monday morning at 10:19 a.m. And you can jump into the comments, which there are quite a few at this moment. And you can jump in and meet and greet with people. It's been really fun recently. Before we get to the comments to say good morning to everybody, this past Bantam, as I had kind of explained last week, was this outpouring of the community that has built up around this business, and all of the great individuals who assisted in setup and function of our space. And it was really fun because there are people who almost only have ever met in our comment section who got to meet each other in real life at the booth at Bantam,
That's fun.
and or kind of develop deeper relationships. Maybe they saw each other passing or something, but never had a real reason to connect. And this was their opportunity at Bantam in our booth, and because of hanging out. Also, I think it is important to note, and whether or not I said this last week, but I can't say it enough, all the people who took an opportunity to say hello and how much they love the program. And I was just like wandering around the grounds, desperately looking for the swap meet that didn't exist anymore. People saying, hey, by the way, love listening to you. Best Jeep podcast on the market, blah, blah, blah. That was so cool, to have that, to kind of have that experience. So thank you to all of you. The tuxedo T-shirt exists because another opportunity to hang out with us will be the July 4th, July 3rd parade. And that, so it's patriotic. It is for the July 4th festival, which is a 3-day shindig here in Conneaut, Ohio. And we welcome all of our Jeep family to come out and parade with us. Basically, you can kind of start to line up around noon on Friday, July 3rd for parade step off shortly thereafter in the 2 o'clock range.
And you're welcome to decorate your Jeep in a patriotic theme for the parade.
And America's 250th birthday.
100%.
You may or may not get in trouble after the parade or before
Driving
decorated.
to and from, yes.
But if you choose to live dangerous, you can't be prepared.
Yes, and and a shout out to one of our good Jeep family, Bradford and Tracy Watson, who in conjunction with us and co-sponsoring, we will have 2,000 Freedom Pops. To popsicles that we will be distributing during during setup and then during the parade itself. We still have to figure out that logistics. I'm fixing to like run a chest freezer off a generator.
Say someone out there that has
Ice cream truck.
a Jeep delivery that is an ice cream truck. We need you.
Yeah, right. Steer Smarts.
We
should have Steer
get all the
Smarts.
Steer Smarts.
Have Steer Smarts
borrow theirs.
their truck. Yeah, no, that would be wicked awesome. Unfortunately, probably not going to happen. But,
Hey, you never know.
right.
You better call them like right now. In the comments, Billy Joe says, "Good morning, everyone." She's first. Then Bill McWilliams says, "Good morning, guys." Nate says, "Good morning," and he put a podcast link for Anderson Overland podcast. Jeannie says, "Good morning, happy Duck Day." Mickey Hunt says, "Good morning, guys," and Giaga Jeeper says, "Good morning, SFJ."
Good morning to everyone. We're glad that you're joining us, and a lot of friendly and familiar faces in the comment section. So, like I said, those of you who are interested or inclined, feel free to jump in there and conversate. Today, we are going to be talking about the good, the bad, and the ugly of the parts of yesteryear.
Don't worry about it.
Okay, I was going to say, boo-doo-doo-doo. We have some production stuff going on, and that in conceptualization of this, we're talking about Father's Day had passed, and so happy Father's Day to A, everyone in this room, but B, all of our listeners who fulfilled that role, and we were talking about how our grandfathers, our fathers, whoever, were working on these Jeeps and how the part quality and kind of what made them successful and famous in that time and age may not exactly be what we're dealing with today. And we're going to kind of peel back some of the layers of some of the challenges by 2026 standards of, parts quality. Now, in that process, we had conceptualized in the most abbreviated and succinct form the title of
Not my daddy's parts.
Not My Daddy's Parts, Not Your Daddy's Parts, which
Once you type it out,
doesn't
sound as good anymore.
It doesn't sound as good anymore. So we thought we really want to stay off of any private island lists and and any political mumbo jumbo. So
this is why you don't normally do the titles without me. But
get out of here. So.
Sometimes we have to do things on our own.
Yep.
As you're running in at the last minute.
Yeah. So
that's a great title.
So is nature. Yeah, I don't even. I did title it, and it's these ain't your Jeep parts anymore. I don't remember what it is. So it was good. I remember being like, okay, this
works, and it will not get us on a list.
On a list, right?
Hopefully.
Which will get redacted and hidden anyways. But so, we're going to be talking about the challenges of the fact that we took very simple technology and we think of it still today as this simple and available product, right?
Yep.
And thanks to companies like Crown Automotive, Economics ADA, Dorman, and a handful of others, we continue to have some of this reproduction product, even though maybe it's not our favorite quality.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's also
there's good, bad, and ugly with that.
And sometimes it's honestly they're our savior from the dyed-in-the-wool brands that we think we know.
Right.
Speaking of, for example, we just had an 58 FC 170. It was a really cool Jeep. Back in for some more service, and he just asked for a simple oil change.
Yes.
Which really, on a 50, straight six, flathead six, that should be simple as all get out.
100%.
But we ran into, not only do you have to special order the oil because you need oil with more zinc for the flat tappet cam, I thought, well, I need to get an oil filter. And I'm sure some have seen the headlines that there is a big unknown turmoil with the big conglomerate that owns Fram and Anco and some other brands. I think Bendix Brakes, if I'm not mistaken, or something.
One of the brake manufacturers.
But one of and this is companies that have been around for forever.
I mean, again, Grandpa would have gone to his local parts store or the dealership.
Yeah.
And they would have sold you a good quality. I mean, it would have been excellent quality, made in America.
Yep.
And I'm going to use at one time Fram, or I'm going to use at one time Bendix or Anco. And you were proud of that part.
Yes.
Right. And he would have been able to go down to the local auto parts store, which was
or hardware store,
or hardware store, or Sears catalog, realistically.
Yep.
And you would have bought a proudly USA made part for that 58.
Yep.
And it was a name brand that we still know and talk about by today's standards.
And now the flip side of that means that they have the molds, they have the designs, they have the blueprints somewhere in that place.
100%.
When you lose a company, now I will go out and say that I was not, rushing to put a Fram on anything newer that I own.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes they are your option for your vintage vehicle because they're one of the only people that's still producing it. And the only reason they do is because they have that in-house knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
So losing a company that's been around that long is a huge blow.
And just being very clear, because I don't think you actually finished the statement, but there is this up in the air about the fate of this holding company, which then regulates and owns all of this. It's a conglomerate that owns all of these brands.
Yeah.
And they are potentially going through a bankruptcy and a divesting of
What I do know
production.
Factual is big retailers like Walmart are literally selling Fram products at a deep discount to get them off their shelves. Availability for Anco wipers. One time they had the classic series, which you literally could go for your 60s or so vehicle and buy a brand new shiny stainless steel wiper blade for it, which is something that sounds so simple.
Mm-hmm.
They are not in stock anywhere. That this distribution is interrupted. I literally had to call and they like, yeah, we can't even get those. So there's a vacuum is going to be or is already in place.
Right. And I think that when we were conceptualizing this conversation today, we wanted to talk about, again, Grandpa and Dad's, the world at which they lived. And you use the term suspended animation, right?
Yep.
And how we conceptualize these vintage vehicles and the products that exist for them, and how we as automotive enthusiasts consume those products.
Yep.
And what kind of quality they were, right?
Yeah.
And so as we talked about it, you said, hey, we have these recent conversations where you have, the 58 where we were just trying to do an oil change.
Yes.
Right? And the challenge we have a head gasket conversation regarding a 134 that we've learned a lot of lessons on. We have a Jeep as new as 1976. And that, is by, fact, 50 years old at this point, but getting parts for it. And we had this challenge of trying to find USA made parts for this 50-year-old vehicle. And more so the cowl gasket specifically stands out to me. And I went down the rabbit hole and found out all the history on it.
And we had over the weekend calls from someone also owning a 75, 76 looking for parts and hitting brick walls. So it's really a snapshot of where we're at in the industry for these vintage vehicles right now. And that can go just as simple as the knowledge of that product is no longer there in those companies.
And with that, I want to say, and as it relates to the new age technology, and the piece that I always shared with people is, if that technology was so pervasive and is what we remember it as, right? We romance it, we romanticize it. It's this nostalgia that we remember it, this really high quality, easy to access, easy to work on. If it was really that good, we would still have it today available in our production vehicles, right? And
Yep.
the thing I always share with people, especially when you have like a Chevy 350 converted Jeep, right? And I've had this conversation a number of times, and we had a customer one time come to us, and he bought a used Jeep, had a Chevy 350 in it, and he wanted to drive it to the Carolinas to participate in some, Jeep events. And I said, that's possible, right? But the reason why the vast majority of vehicles running around on the road right now are not Chevy 350s is that our society has progressed. Our use of the vehicle, the speed at which we travel, the braking, the on and off, the quick trips that we take as people, the degree of maintenance that we want to perform has surpassed the duty cycle of a Chevy 350.
Yep.
Right? And that's just flat out the case. And so if the product line from the 50s through the 80s, 90s, the reason we don't see those vehicles on the road with us right now is, quite frankly, we have the usage, our usage as, everyday automotive enthusiasts has outlived or has become greater than the duty cycle of those parts and pieces.
And I'll give you a good example with this head gasket. So all vehicles pretty much today have what's called an MLS head gasket.
Which means what?
Multi-layered steel, and they are literally formed metal gaskets that are riveted together outside of the clamping area of the head. Now, in order for those to work, and you do get a more efficient seal, they obviously being metal are not going to burn up from combustion temperatures and that kind of thing, but the head to block interface need to be a certain type of clamping and have enough fasteners in certain locations for that to work, which is also why we get to torque to yield bolts and certain passes of how you're supposed to do it and torque it in
torque
multiple
sequence,
things, and
just like your lug nuts have.
torque the angle, etc. Going back to our simple 1920s design 134, the design of the block and head do not allow it to use an MLS because you just do not have the clamping force designed.
What did head gaskets used to be made out of? Let's go back to Grandpa's head.
Asbestos
That's true.
and horsehair.
The horses were coming.
There come the horses.
Oh boy.
And I alley-oop, and he dunks it.
So anyway,
Real quick, Dan in the comments said an unhinged conspiracy is Jeep stopped using the inline 640 because it was too reliable.
we actually could talk about that, but
That's actually a great podcast topic.
yeah,
for
put
the
that on the
future.
shelf.
Yeah, Dan, I'm not going to remember that, but somebody needs to text me that, which, amongst our listening or
Yeah.
email me. I'm not going to remember that, but send that to us in some capacity. Good
Yeah.
job, Dan.
So anyways, so back in the day, we'd have what's called a composite gasket. Basically, it kind of compresses and sort of adheres to the block and the head.
Is it fair to conceptualize a composite gasket as not plywood, but
Cork?
I guess cork. I was thinking, MDF or OSB. You know what I mean? Where
No,
it's composite is basically it's not a single layer of metal, but it is actually like
it's a dark, colored.
it's
piece.
a mixture of stuff that would have been molded into
And
gasket
it's
form.
important to note for someone's firing up their keyboard, they also did use copper head gaskets. You can still get some of that. They do have beads of this reminiscent to an MLS. It's not the same thing. It's because the copper is soft and it doesn't conforms to the voids and
Right.
the gaps that those older engines have.
But would they have come factory with a copperhead gasket? They would have come
Not in
factory
my
with
experience.
a composite, to my knowledge.
In my experience,
Right.
that is correct,
All right. Okay.
but I can always be wrong.
Well,
in
there's
somebody's
always
book.
outliers to every conversation.
Yep.
Especially in the Jeep community.
But we had the situation where Felpro made a head gasket. One side was composite, one side was aluminum. Now, normally, I would think, okay, aluminum's a soft material. It's going to conform.
They're trying to take the cheap way out of the copper conversation.
I agree with you there because copper is exceedingly expensive anymore. My problem is that it was a very smooth. I mean, could have used it for decoration almost. It was so smooth. It had no beads to compress around any of the important
Right. Had
places.
very little compression spaces. It was almost like a machine flat surface.
Yes.
It was so thin and so smooth, as you were mentioning.
And we also had our engine rebuilt. They're very thorough machine shop. One of their processes is they did a slight mill of the top of the block. Did a very nice job. It was very smooth. So we have two very smooth metals, and neither one want to conform to either because we're talking to the microscopic level at this point, which the coolant and stuff like that's like ice can just have a heyday.
Correct.
And compression can have a heyday. So we need something to adhere and we need something to compress. So I thought, well, this should not be that hard.
Well, we ultimately have this new engine, and we actually start seeing a little bit of bubbling or fluid leakage around at the head seam itself after utilization. Compression was good across the cylinders; it was fair, but we saw basically this bubbling or a little bit of fluid where there shouldn't be, right? The liquids on the inside of the block should stay on the inside of the block.
And it was running fairly well. Most people probably would have been like, oh, it's fine. It's going to see. I could literally hear someone, oh, those got to age a little bit and they will seal up.
100%. Your local Jim Bob mechanic would have told you that you just didn't break it in yet and it needed to seal up a little bit still.
Which, no.
Don't listen to that. It's not right.
No. So we took it apart and it was not what I wanted it to be. Now, it's important to note on this Fel-Pro gasket, it does not really come out and tell you that it's this very smooth, flat aluminum. This is just the gasket you should use. And because of that,
not a lot of descriptor and not a lot of explanation. When you actually go in to try and do the homework on the gasket from the data that they provide you.
I actually had to have it in my hands before I knew
likelihood
exactly
is
what it
their
was.
marketing department, they're so big that their marketing department and the engineer who did the CAD drawing for production, they're not communicating with each other. And it's just simply, you should be happy that you have a part available.
Pretty much. So went into that deep dive, and I was aware that this could or could not be right. It's literally the only part number I was seeing. I did some other digging, and I found improved. Fel-Pro had made a couple different evolutions of gasket. Improved gasket that I would like to use, and it looked similar enough. So a lot of people don't maybe know, but the 134 soldiered on in industrial applications and fork trucks and air compressors and other things and became the Continental 134.
Correct. The design was actually sold or acquired by Continental for industrial application. It ran almost all the way through the 80s in production.
So the problem is in that situation is our Jeep 134s are stuck in the time vacuum they are in. When Continental got that design, they decided, well, we can improve it a little bit. We can make this coolant passage a little shape different. Maybe the block suddenly gets a little bit bigger, et cetera, et cetera. Maybe a head bolt moves.
Just to jump in, it's the conversation of the 3.6 and the JK starting in 2012 through 2018 is not the same 3.6 as the JL 2018 and a half to current. They share the name. They both are installed in Wranglers.
They have a loosely similar design.
They have a loose similar design, but inherently they are vastly different.
Yes.
All right.
And the parts inside are different. So I, again, no real information on that either. Ordered it, pretty promptly clear that it was not going to fit on this engine. And we were kind of back to sitting, scratching our heads. Literally doing more digging. Luckily, our logistics are that I can reach out to, reps and sales representatives and say, hey, can you physically go to the shelf, physically get this, show me pictures of it. And that way I was able to verify that Crown, to my knowledge, is the only place that you can get a composite gasket for a 134. And likewise, like I was saying, yes, copper exists, but with the extreme smoothness of this deck, I did not have confidence in the copper sealing. And we're talking, the other frustrating part is we're not talking like a big dollar part. We're talking like a $30 head gasket.
Sure.
The copper, because it's copper, we're talking over $100 head gasket.
Mm-hmm.
And it may not still seal
Correct. Because of its design.
because it's designed in our specific situation.
Correct.
So something that should be fairly easy,
Mm-hmm.
again, was very complicated. And,
Grandpa would have gone to the parts store,
Yep.
and they would have just been able to produce a composite gasket that
Yep.
in 9.9 times out of 10 would seal up on this on whatever 134 application.
I'd like to point out, not always would they just produce it. Sometimes it would be, yep, we'll send it to you. You'll have it in 10 to 15 business days.
that too.
Mhm.
I'm at the Sears catalog.
Yeah.
They would have wrote a letter,
Yep.
sent it to.
Then they send back the invoice, and you send back the check,
Yeah,
and the
yeah.
parts come.
I'm going to ignore Jeffrey and just go back to our
baiting
fairy
us.
tale.
He's baiting us.
On horse and buggy.
Yes.
Yeah. Back in our fairy tale that you just walk to your local Napa and
Yes.
they had it on the shelf for you.
It wasn't even a Napa. It was just Bob's Hardware.
Right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Anyways, so that is some of the things that made it very apparent to me that people, we romanticize these vehicles, like Neil said, and we also romanticize the process.
And the period at which they existed. That's
Yeah.
something you said to me, was that in concept of today's talking points was we somehow, that vehicle helps transport us back to a simpler time.
Yep.
For a vast majority of people, which is funny because you and I, when we were test driving the 58, we had to go pick up another Jeep, and we're test driving the 58 and side shift because it's an FC. So
Yep.
now we're a side shift.
Shifting at our ankle.
Correct. And, it is, that was a straight 6,
Yeah.
which had a paltry, whopping 67 horsepower,
Yeah.
on a good day.
And with the gearing and tire size this truck had, 45. Now, granted, this is a customer's vehicle. I'm not pushing it to race.
Correct. We're not doing race speeds.
But 45 is really where the truck wanted to stop. It was happiest there and below.
Correct. And we had this conversation that, as much as I love the character of the FC and the lines and the designs, and I wanted one desperately for so many years,
Yep.
I live a life where I would not be tolerant of its inability to accelerate, to stop on a dime, to kind of perform at a today's standard.
Just for
It's
getting
fun
ready.
to drive, just to drive, but for actual daily use, it's not a good
Well,
vehicle in today's
correct.
society.
And you we're all spoiled now. You hit the key, it's ready to go. You can be, the starter can be disengaging. You can put it in reverse. Older vehicles like that, you have to pull the choke. You have to get it running. You can't take the choke off right away. You slowly let it off. Like, it's a 5 to 15 minute process. Then that vehicle is then ready to set out.
And something about that, for a person who purposely or intentionally engages in that vehicle, for whether it be daily or weekend or whatever, it becomes fulfilling of that moment that the vehicle was created, right? Yeah. The technology, and so it's not just about the end product of displaying the vehicle and the fanfare that you may or may not get from owning this cool or unusual Jeep, but what it transports you to. We used to talk about that with like the Rambler or even your pick 'em up truck that you recently sold. They become about the moment in which you're driving. It becomes kind of centering, whereas that is not really how we live our lives by today's standards.
Correct. And I've heard plenty of people that are aware, I can't take my vintage vehicle to my Jim Bob mechanic that I take my newer Jeep to, or at least there is more cognizant people of that. But what we're here is, it's not just the mechanic. It's not just the tools. We have ourselves overcome quite a few of those challenges of the knowledge, the books, the ability, the tools to do it properly, knowing how to go through those processes. Yet again, we're hitting a significant roadblock where you just can't get the part.
Correct.
And in the end of the day, you have to be happy with something existing, even though it's not optimized for what it always was. And that's sometimes as simple as the fact that the engineer that designed that part has been retired for your lifetime.
And so I'm going to jump and I'm going to fast forward to a conversation explicitly about TerraFlex. And I'm going to put them in my mouth because I had a great conversation with a customer over the weekend. I know Mickey's on here, and I was talking with Mitch about his build, and we were talking about some big axle upgrades, okay? And TerraFlex at one time was a prolific hardcore off-road brand. And I recognize that, and I recognize what they did for our industry, just as the same that I'll go back and I'll recognize Rubicon Express and Smittybilt and ProComp for their role from the the 90s into the early 2000s. They were a prolific manufacturer, TerraFlex predating them even yet. And still I have experience that other people don't know, because TerraFlex then blows their brand up as marketing, right? They fluff up their marketing vastly through the JK, and they become the go-to consumption brand outside of some of these other mainstream,
and they
products.
put out a perspective that they were this down the earth,
hardcore off-road, you're fulfilling a role when you consume their product.
very relatable, that kind of
100%.
stuff. And they were at one time, and they also had swap parts for doing like TJ motor swaps and that kind of stuff.
Well, and they had, but let's go back even further. They had hardcore off-road parts. They had Dana 300 parts. They had Dana 20 parts. You had the Terra Low, crawling system for the MP231s. They were in the places where the Jeepers were. I have immense respect for that. But as they literally grew with the bolt-on explosion of the JK realm, they sold out more and more and more. And to your conversation here, as you mentioned, the people who originally created that brand and the relevancy it had to our off-road industry moved on for one reason or another.
Yep.
So that by the time that we are in fact trying to do an engine swap process, we consume a product from them.
Yep.
It doesn't work.
Yep.
We call them and they go, well, I don't know. It's just on the shelf because whoever actually designed this, packaged it, so on and so forth, they don't work here anymore.
Yeah.
We don't actually know how this part works that you have purchased from us because we just make it, package it, and distribute it.
Or we have, 100 on the shelf, and then we have 50 on the shelf. We have 20 on the shelf. And once we sell out of them,
We're not restocking them.
we're not restocking.
And so this conversation where it goes back for Mitch and Mickey is that they were looking at a very cool hub conversion kit, of which TerraFlex is the only manufacturer on the market who has this hub conversion kit available for their application. Makes cool sense to me. Takes their ultimate Dana 44, which we know and love, and turns it into the HD, right? Gives it an 8-lug outer full float option. In concept, super cool. It takes me back to the 80s and 70s and 80s heavy half-ton packages.
Yep.
That you had this robust Dana 44 with a full float assembly with lockouts and 8-lug on the outside. I remember it. I like it. It in my mind, I go, hey, that should be cool. However, in a pre-COVID experience, TerraFlex used to sell 1-ton axle assemblies.
Yep.
And I was privy to, at that time, and what I call the great sellout of the TerraFlex brand, a friend who had one of these axle assemblies and blew a bearing
Yep.
and could not replace it because it was such an obscure part, whatever TerraFlex intended to use, and they could not get feedback from the company to say, yes, this is the exact pinion bearing that you need.
Yeah.
So the customer didn't, or the individual didn't want to disable the Jeep because they needed it to still be on the road.
Yep.
They weren't running it in 4-wheel drive because of this pinion problem.
But you're literally in the situation where we run into with these older vehicles where you have to disassemble it, get the part number off the bearing, do your research, see, maybe call an actual bearing supplier. Hey, what does the logistics of this? And they go, oh, actually, that's been superseded by this number and is now been critiqued or changed slightly over here. And then you have to do analysis to say, okay, does this actually still work in my application?
Right. And so at the end of the day, this conversation where we leave it is, I think it's a really cool idea. And of all the people, I mean, there's a number of our customers who are very hands-on. They're very well researched. I think that even if there was a problem, long-term serviceability in this specific situation, Mitch could probably figure it out. I get that, right? But it's an obscure niche of a niche product.
It's not the smooth perception of process that most people would have.
Right. Just because the part exists in data does not mean that that it's good in functionality, right? And it goes back to these head gaskets or yokes or cowl seals.
Yep.
That just because the product exists in data, a magazine, a website, and that it can factually be consumed does not necessarily mean that it is of quality or long-term return.
And as things get, gone bankrupt or cease to exist, those small machine shops across the country get taken out, bought out. It gets harder and harder and harder to do that process.
Circle back to the Anco, Bendix. We're totally making up the Bendix conversation. We don't actually know if it's the brake one.
It's a brake something.
It's one of the brake manufacturers.
We were supposed to look it up before, but
but go back to that conglomerate that as they divest.
They literally said if somebody doesn't come up and buy them, they will be gone.
Mm-hmm.
It will be bankrupt and be casualty of war of sorts. But just because they get bought doesn't mean they're going to be the Fram you knew either.
I was going to say, personally, it's Fram, and they stopped making quality years ago, and that's probably their biggest problem.
And that's fine.
Correct.
That's fine.
That's fair.
Specifically in that product, and that argument can be made. And ultimately, this is the segue for when we talk about Jeep as a brand itself. When we shift between parent company and, this is the segue in the part where Scott and I wanted to talk about when we move from Kaiser to AMC ownership.
Yep.
They come in and they go, hey guys, you worked for Kaiser, you put in all these years, you did all these things. I'm going to kick you to the curb. Yep. And they go away, right? There's a little bit of an absorption.
We hit the reset button and now everyone's zero investment.
Correct. And AMC takes over. In their heyday of 76, there's a little bit of transitionary time there in the 72 plus or 71 plus era. But basically, probably more important to today's specific talking point is when Chrysler goes, hey, I'm really interested in what you're doing in 86, 87. Mm-hmm. Chrysler goes, hey, I know that you're going bankrupt, right? Insert, model here.
Yep.
I want to buy your brand, but pretty much I don't give a crap what you've been doing
for previous years.
For previous years.
And who owned you before and what they changed and how they did.
And they came in and they just wiped out stuff. And specifically, we talk about this at a dealership or a service level where they came in and shut down small AMC dealerships from coast to coast, where there were qualified technicians, qualified individuals who knew these products, who had the books, who had the specialty tools, who had been servicing these things. And now all of a sudden they went with these bigger dealership models. They ripped, stripped, and dipped parts and pieces of that brand identity, and they mashed it together with different Euro technology. Absolutely. And it kind of goes back to Dom's conversation about we had this really good thing going on, but it didn't exactly fit our future mold.
Yeah.
And so just because And Jeff made the statement, Fram wasn't doing a good job. Okay, well, AMC wasn't doing. We make fun of their paint jobs, you know what I mean? And the guy with the cigarette ash hanging out. And
I just saw a post this morning, someone asking where this heat shield is, and the welds look like something he would do. And he's a hobbyist. He's not really that good.
Welds that AMC had.
And I didn't even have the energy to be like, nope, that's factory.
That's a factory crappy weld. You know what I mean? And the different parts sourcing, the fact that you get 11 different transmissions from 5 different manufacturers over just a short 10-year time frame, because they couldn't quite figure out what combination of parts and pieces A, they wanted to use, and B, they could afford to use, because they were always on the brink of destruction. They weren't doing a lot of things right? Like Fram. So it's not unfair to say that they needed to be purchased. However, once you have that purchase acquisition, what then happens with it, and the same goes for TerraFlex. They're not owned and function the way that they did 30 years ago. That's not the case. In fact, now they're owned by a large scale conglomerate that I have a lot of respect for. I think they're a cool brand, the actual ownership, but they're using TerraFlex to their advantage. It's not the mom and pop that once was, built on a hardcore, rugged off-road platform of a business model. The parts aren't what they used to be.
No, now it's just a name.
It is in large part a name in that sense, right? And we learned this lesson, and we want to, share it with people. I do want to share the story of the windshield cal, because I went super, super far down the rabbit hole for Rob and Teresa and the in their their Jeep.
I'll do the foreshadowing. So we have our 76 to 86 CJs. They have a seal that goes between the windshield frame and the body. And this has already been a rough go through the years, because we've had fiberglass bodies that aren't produced well and therefore don't seal. And then you could be like, well, is it the body or the gasket kind of scenario, chicken or the egg conversation? And also you have, that's a lot of change over many different years. Like you said, change is hard. We're still dealing with some Kaiser era stuff on the early 70s stuff. We were full AMC by 86, and honestly starting to see Chrysler getting in there. So this gasket's got to do a lot of stuff in the geocentric world of things. And it's a cheap part.
It is a cheap part, right? And it's an often overlooked part, because the vast majority of people, let's be honest, head gaskets and windshield cal gaskets are not sexy. No. They're not cool, right? If you thought this morning, you woke up and said, man, I wish those guys at FSJ 4x4 would talk about head gaskets and windshield cal gaskets, I guarantee freaking D you didn't. You know what I mean?
Either that or you are Scott's best friend. Because that's what you two do.
That's fair.
That's fair. The vast majority of people want to talk about tire and wheel packages.
Yeah.
They want to talk about cool lift kits. How much lift do I need to fit 35s?
The Hirsch purse.
The Hirsch purse, right? We
the
talk
one
about
time
these
I
things.
saw that cool Jeep.
One time I saw a cool Jeep, the cool paint job, right?
Yep, the thematics.
Absolutely, the thematics. Did I accent it this? Did I have this little duck here? I mean, I get it.
But there's the nut and bolts that get you there.
And allow you to keep going to the shows and to the events.
Those are optional.
And obviously, to keep that Jeep on the road for many, many years. So if we go back to, your granddaddy's rubber, we see the guys
trying to get on that list again.
So we see the great YouTube videos that
well, you can stay away from the videos.
Specialize that hit all the algorithm, and basically it's the barn find, the garage find to pull it out of the field, and they go in and they air up the tires despite the fact that they've
They're
been
gonna
sitting
blow
flat.
up. Yeah.
And they air up the tires, and the tires hold air, right? The belt that's on there for the last 60 years is the serpentine it's going to fire up and work.
It's the
can
V
grab-
belt, not the serpentine.
You can grab the
Well, that's
battery
a
out of the
V-belt.
ATV and start the Jurassic Park Jeep. So
Yeah.
So, but the rubber itself, and this is where I was going with it. The rubber itself, reasonably was a more
Robust.
product, right?
Yeah.
It was more genuine. It was more actual rubber versus a compound of varying things. Well, moving forward to this particular story, a customer wants to replace the rubber windshield cowl gasket,
Which had been changed once before.
100%.
Was not thrilled with how it was aging. This Jeep lives in Florida, so it has seen some UVs.
Well, and so 5 years ago, and this was getting at 5 years ago, he installs what he believes to be a Crown Automotive windshield cowl gasket,
Which
and
we can pretty much say is at this point, but
likelihood,
there.
right? We don't know what it was 5-7 years ago, right? Could have been multiple options, but we have this cowl gasket, right? And he installs it on the Jeep roughly 5 years ago. And by the time that we're seeing it now, he's very concerned. He wants it to be changed, but he would like to use a manufacturer other than Crown because this one has deteriorated.
Didn't have lasting power.
Had no lasting power. In fact, it was so dry rotted that, I mean, it looked like it was 80 years old, right? Yeah. And you take it, once it was removed, you take it off, there's giant cracks and huge separation within the rubber compound itself. Okay, so we'd like to use something else. This is a fair request. He used one manufacturer once. He'd like to use something else now in the future.
And it's important to note, you look up cowl gasket and you get 10 hits.
At least, right? 10 hits from different people.
Different.
I'm going to totally throw out while I'm trashing people. AMC Lives, total scam artist in this conversation. They actually advertised their cowl gasket made in the USA.
Yeah.
And had country of origin, USA. They actually had on their stock photography, had a, USA proud or something, product, blah, blah, blah.
And maybe when they put it on their website, 25, 30 years ago, it was.
Correct.
But it ain't no more.
And so we actually order that. It shows up. It comes in a Crown box. And, we almost paid $100 for it.
Yeah.
Right? I forgot that
yeah,
part.
it was way
we
more.
should mention we almost paid $100 for it.
Where Crown's normally, what, $20?
Yeah, something 20,
like
30
that.
bucks, right? Let's
Yeah.
call it that. Shows up in a Crown package. Okay. Well, I light them on fire. We send that back. Blah, blah, blah. We all move on.
But we still haven't got to the bottom of the thing. We're getting inklings,
Correct.
but we haven't gotten to the end of the story yet.
So as I move forward in this process, we find a couple other people from those 10 hits, and I'm calling them, and
Well, it's important to note too. We had done that deep dive. We kind of hit a brick wall and we kind of stopped.
Mm-hmm.
This is something, and we got other things we had to do on the Jeep. The customer was still very passionate about this, so he starts doing his own research, and he says, "Well, I see steel rubber makes air quotes."
Yeah.
Has this cowl gasket
Available.
So we deep dive again. We go back in. This is months later, and he calls
I call Steel.
Steel, and we're like, "Hey, what's the country of origin?" We will not divulge that.
Correct.
I said, "Well, is this something you make in house?" Well, no, we buy it from an outside retailer. Oh, who do you buy it from?
Fairchild.
Fairchild. And that's all we know.
Correct. So
we are stubborn, and so we call Fairchild. We're like, "Hi, we see you have this cowl gasket.
country of origin.
Country origin. We won't tell you." Oh, okay. Do you make it in house? No, we buy it from an outside retailer.
Then I ask, who do you distribute? She says, we're just a distributor.
Yeah.
I said, okay. So
Who do you distribute to?
they umbrella distribute to Steel Rubber, to
Omix ADA.
Omix ADA, and then a number of under the Fairchild name, they distribute to a number of
Like
Quadratech and Extreme Terrain and whoever,
Kaiser
right?
Willys and et cetera,
yeah,
et
Kaiser Willys or whoever, you know what I mean? So just they are an umbrella distribution company.
It's like,
And
well, where do you get it from? They wouldn't tell us.
we won't tell you, but it's a U.S. company. It's a company based in the U.S. I said, but do they make it? No, it's made overseas. I will tell you that, but they're U.S. based. Okay, I understand that. I really do.
Yeah.
Um,
We're not really upset that it's not made here. We're
Right.
more upset about the whiteboard with all the thumbtacks with the little string connecting it for a cowl gasket. So we then call up our rep and we're like, hey,
at Crown, and
at Crown,
I say,
it's like, hey, do you
who do you get this from? Right? Because
we're following this all the way.
we're following this all the way. And now I've leapt over to Crown and I say, who do you get this from? And they say, we don't. We own the mold and the engineering. We actually have the tooling for this, and we make it overseas. Which, again, that's not a secret. That's the number of their products are overseas based. That's okay. But the fact that they own the tooling, nobody in any of this conversation with these other 7 hits to your conversation
have the tooling.
have or own the tooling. Crown owns the tooling for this.
So then we're like, hey, do you sell it to Fairchild? And we're like, I don't know. Let me look that up. Oh, yes, we do. That's
Sure we do.
sure we do.
Okay. So the fact that there's literally, this ain't your daddy's Jeep parts.
Yeah.
There's literally only one manufacturer worldwide of this windshield cowl gasket.
And if you're buying an Omix one, you're actually buying a Crown one.
It's just what it is.
And all you're doing is paying the guy in between.
To move it
All
around.
7 of them.
Yeah. And sometimes it is the 7. And that's why it goes from $20 to $100 because everybody's made $5 on the deal and it's been shipped across the country 14 times.
Yep. So, I mean, I just feel like it's valuable as we kind of, bring this to a wrap up point, to talk about how this relates from this romance that we have about the Jeep industry, the ease of working on them. Because we didn't even really talk about today's head gaskets, which we had talked about how they vary and differ wildly from what we, kind of unveiled with the 134. But from this romantic period of the Jeep, the simplicity, the kind of Swiss Army knife that the Jeep is for our community, and how it relates to our ability, or I guess how we're able to relate to it in modern ways. The idea that there might be a bunch of retailers for this windshield cowl gasket out there, but not actually that many different options. Quite frankly, there's, from that conversation, 7 to 10 options, but literally it's the one same part.
Yeah.
The whole conversation,
And it's one of those economic things that we kind of do to ourselves. We all, have a finite amount of money. We want it to go as far as we can. So we're looking for the best price. We're trying to do educated buying. And that is why more and more things are getting outsourced and that kind of stuff to the race to the bottom of sorts. And then when you go to overseas, they just do things differently. Mm-hmm. So,
yeah.
Well, Tony said it best in the comments. It's a big, small world out there.
Yeah, it is.
For sure. And I just, that's a great way to think about it in conjunction with the fact that, as I will always say, we are happy that we have the ability to consume these parts because of manufacturers like Crown and loosely Omix ADA. Though they have changed and been acquired, they went from their ownership level and have been acquired by a conglomerate as well by now. Crown is still operating independently and quite frankly, in my opinion, has only kind of continued to grow as an industry leader in their distribution of parts. Realistically, we could be the Hudson crowd. We could be the Studebaker crowd.
Yep.
Those parts are very, very hard to come by. And while, given the opportunity, I would love to buy new old stock product. which just means it's been sitting on the shelf since those little dealerships got closed out back in the 70s and 80s.
But rubber items aren't really
Something that is a great new old stock item.
Yeah.
Like stickers or graphics.
Yeah,
Right?
They're
We-
super
we've-
cool. We will nerd the crap out of that. But
yes.
but can you put it on your
actually
vehicle?
Installed on your modern use vehicle? Not really.
Yeah.
Not really. So there's kind of a weird give or take when it comes to that process.
And again, if we want a USA made cowl gasket, that's going to be $250 because you're going to have a stateside manufacturer. You're going to have to make their own molds. You're going to have to develop it and then sell enough to justify it.
Right. I was going to say there's not currently a stateside cowl gasket
Right.
manufacturer. But if there was, like you said, that cowl gasket goes from being a $25, roughly speaking, product to a $250 product.
Absolutely.
And so, we take the good and the bad with what we do and appreciate where our industry came from and what that part process did look like for our grandparents, for our
Yeah.
parents. But
And-
also recognize we're thankful we have them available today.
I would say once
Anything available.
once you have some knowledge, then you can appropriately make choices. We're not telling you not to have vintage vehicles.
Or manage your expectations.
That too.
Right? You can manage your expectations to go, hey, I'm glad that I don't have a dry rotted cowl there anymore.
Yeah.
I would have liked something with a little bit better of a future. You know what I mean? That it would last a
if
little
every
longer.
5 years you got to put a $20 gasket on.
That might be the price you have to pay.
Yeah.
All right, folks. I hope you enjoy that. Happy Father's Day again to all the individuals fulfilling that role in one way or another. We appreciate you both now and as you have set the stage for us, from years ago. So I think that pretty much concludes us. I love some of the talking points in the in the comments, as I always encourage people to jump in there and join in those conversations every Monday at 10:19. If there's anything further you want to hear us chit chat about, there have been some good suggestions recently. You can reach out to us as well at contact, CONTACT, at sfj4x4.com. And if you'd like to hear about what's going on in our personal lives, you can hang on through the outro. Until next time, Jeep on.
Jeep on.
I'm looking to see what Jeffrey clicked because I just never know.
Weekend updates. Click.
Yeah, the other day I actually clicked live stream had ended, and I was like, well, that's close enough for horseshoes
Nope.
and hand grenades.
You just keep doing this, and then our listeners and watchers are like, "What is going on?"
Yeah, it's like I'm geeking out over here.
Anywho's. So ironically, as this always goes somehow, in my Father's Day traveling around in the 36, we ran into this beautiful 57 Chevy two-door hardtop, bright white. And because I'm a purveyor of classic cars, I'm like, I have not seen that car before. And we have a nicely dressed lady. The hood is up. The AAA vehicle is currently in front of it. And I'm dialoguing in my head of what's going on. I see the technician from the AAA truck is looking underneath the hood, probably trying to figure out what he's looking at. He finally does get the jump pack after the woman has come over and talked to me.
Oh, seriously?
And I was like, "Oh, you're having some issues there. Do you need any assistance?" And she says, "Oh no, pretty sure the battery's just not quite up to snuff. I just got the car. That was a beautiful day. Take it to church. Two were
What was the
running
car?
around.
Did I miss that?
57 Chevy two-door hardtop.
Okay.
So pretty desirable, pretty big dollar car in the scheme of things. I think the best part of this is the husband was in the passenger seat and he was not having it, but he was playing, putting on a good face for this interaction. But she was out. She was in charge.
Yeah, this is her car.
Her car, he's just along for the ride, quite literally. And it's like, we've experienced this before. They probably had a memory of these cars, always wanted one of these cars. Finally was in a financial situation she could buy a nicely
Right.
restored example. Who knows how long it sat?
As a number of our listeners have reached out, lean over restorations. One of our listeners used that term.
Absolutely.
But we understand, basically on the surface, it looks restored.
Or it is restored, but it's been sitting for 15 years or 10
Sure,
years since it's been
sure.
restored. So has mice gotten in and chewed wires? Does the battery still, as ambitious as it was? Battery technology in the last 10 years has been rocky, that kind of stuff. And again, this is not a mechanical person. This is somebody that romanticizes the experience the car allows them.
Yep.
They can drive it, they can register it, they can insure it. Can they work on it themselves? No, obviously not, because they have the AAA man there to do something we would think is kind of rudimentary as a jump start.
Yes.
They're going to have a hard time. It makes me sad for them. It's a gorgeous car. But that just kind of is a snapshot of what we're into. Plus, another thing similarly that I'm never stop watching videos or learning about automotive-esque things. And I found a thing popped up about the Corvette ZR1 from the 90s. That era of Corvette was one of the most technological Corvettes of its time. But they had just a boring old straight, small block Chevy in it.
Right.
And was not great for blowing your hat back on the horsepower spots. So at this time, GM had somehow gotten Lotus under their umbrella. And they went to the Lotus engineers and they're like, hi, our Corvette's cool, but it's not very fast. Can we send you a small block Chevy and you tell us what you would do with it?
Okay.
So they did that process, and Lotus was like, this is a boat anchor. This is
we
terrible.
would do nothing with
We
it.
also do nothing with this. Can we build our own motor? And GM was like, sure. So that is where the 32 valve ZR1 motor came from, with dual overhead cams and aluminum block and that kind of stuff. And I thought was really interesting. We're talking like 96, 95. GM at that time did not possess the ability to cast a machine aluminum block.
The tooling itself is what held them back.
So they went to Mercury Marine to have them make
the engine block.
the engine blocks and hand assemble those motors.
Wow. Wow. Reflected in the price point.
Again, this is let my card show a little bit. This is a little bit of a precursor to the 4-liter conversation that we had in the comments.
Yes.
And that is why underneath the hoods of vehicles, do you see pushrod engines? No, you see overhead cam engines with aluminum blocks.
Interesting.
So I thought that was kind of serendipitous that it.
The what? It was what?
I thought he did okay saying that one.
But
He's done worse.
All right. My weekend starts a little early. Obviously, some people who are following along on the saga, we got the Gladiator new to us. Really tickled with it. It is a diesel. If you didn't catch
it was
up on that.
showing me mile per gallon, which I think was wrong and unfair.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not an MPG guy, right? I'm
He
not.
is now.
But I'm really struggling not to feed that fire because as to get into a pickup truck and drive, it was averaging the city driving that my wife never shuts the Jeep off for, and then drive to Buffalo in it and average eventually we hit 26 miles per gallon as far as the way that the Jeep computer computes it. That's pretty exciting. We're pushing 32-inch tires.
Yeah.
All terrain. Nice Falcon all terrain.
So what's the Gladiator up to mileage wise, Jeff?
Mine,
Yeah.
106,000
No.
no. What do you think?
miles
you're
per
getting?
gallon. We're probably about 18 right now.
Yeah.
17, 18.
That
That's
seems
still
right to
pretty
me.
good.
That seems right to me. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? If you don't drive it, outrageous, I feel like, the
I mean, if I'm doing just like the back roads from my house to here, it's 23, 24. If I get up on the highway, it drops.
Say mine mixed driving right now. It's been right about 17.
Yeah.
In the winter, we were down as far as 14 because the fuel changes. Makes me sad. So when he sent me 26,
We did drop some in the winter too, but mine's on 37s, so
yeah, your gears actually made more
And-
highway-esque.
well, and I'm also on a stock gear ratio. I never re-geared.
That's what
Yeah.
he's saying, is that you're
Yeah.
actually better for highway stuff. Long story short, a great trip to Buffalo, Niagara Falls. Try to celebrate my anniversary that happened over a month ago, more or less. Not quite, I guess, a month ago, but trying to catch some time with my wife and have that opportunity. From there was just a lot of. I was back into work here on Saturday, trying to take care of some customer business, staying very busy. And then ultimately yesterday went for, if you're on my personal social page, went for, again, same kind of a Jeep drive. I really find myself right now, I really am looking forward to getting back out on the trail, but I find myself personally really just enjoying the destination that the Jeep can get me to. I like the drive to the place. I like the road trip, you know.
That's
Since
Free
we-
Cove.
So yeah, since we don't just cruise around anymore, like when we were, that was
Yeah.
a thing. We used to just cruise. Now we
Well,
don't
yeah,
cruise
you can find change in the couch and have enough gas
and
to
cruise,
around.
right? Now I
Now
like
the
to
change in the couch doesn't do anything.
No. So you kind of want to have a purposeful destination, but along the way, I like that. Again, I guess maybe the nostalgia of the cruise, right? I like to look into people's yards and see what junk they've collected, or see cool cars, or see cool house builds, or just people being happy at the not at the gas station, the convenience store. You know what I mean? Like having those fun personal interactions. And so, yes, there's a hollow tree, what we call the hollow tree, and you can see my kids through some pictures.
Through the ages.
Kind of grow up in the hollow tree, and I make them shove into the hollow tree and take a picture there. And guy stopped me, and he said, I don't even remember what he said, but it was just this kind of authentic, positive experience, and want to know if we were the owners of the property. I said, no, actually, I just discovered it years ago, and I make my kids get in it. And as far as my Father's Day gift, I wanted to drive there purposely and take this picture and have this experience. And he said, what's so funny? We do the same thing. We get in it, we take pictures, and it just makes us happy. He goes, it's been that way and here as long as I've been here, and
That's awesome.
and he said, Happy Father's Day, and we departed. It was just that positive experience, and I like to think about how the Jeep kind of transported us to have that moment. Could we have done it in a Toyota Camry, in Nissan, my Noble Steed car that I had years ago?
No.
Yeah, you could,
No,
right?
not
It's
the
just
same.
not the same. Jeffrey, your weekend update?
So because I wasn't here for the episode right after Bantam, unfortunately, but I did have my 40th birthday, then Father's Day, so we had a lot of little things going on.
Mhm.
But obviously, real busy with the brewery. But one thing I did learn, and this is something that I thought you guys would find very entertaining, is they tell you when you turn 40, something will happen. Well, that doctor's appointment happened this morning.
Oh God, Jeff!
I'm
I'm surprised you're sitting okay.
Yeah, it was. They said 40. I didn't know they meant within days of turning 40.
Some people have to pay for that, Jeff.
Yeah. It was a morning. Let's just say that.
I guess.
Oh dear.
I guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, congratulations and
Yeah,
happy birthday on
but-
air to you. That was quite the birthday present.
Yeah. No, it wasn't. We could do without that ever again.
And anything else you want to add to that process?
No, other than that, no. It's been just real busy trying to keep up with everything. So.
Of course. Fantastic. All right, folks. As always, we got plenty to do. We might do a live. I don't know. I keep saying that.
Yeah.
And then
We're trying, people.
We're trying, folks. We really are. But feel free to prioritize joining us on July 3rd for that patriotic America 250 inspired parade. We would love to see you there. Until next time, Jeep on.
Jeep on.
Jeep on.